What crazy thing can I say that'll get people to call in and scream at us? That's Phil Stern.
Just do your normal.
Oh, you're doing espresso now.
No. Okay, so Tony Colon actually brought in, as a nice little Christmas gift at the Christmas Eve show.
In addition to pasteles, which is a Puerto Rican.
How were they?
I haven't gotten into them yet.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
This is Cafe Bustelo, I think I'm saying it correctly. So they're like little K-cups, and I've been drinking them.
That is the brand of espresso that I drink.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is this espresso?
Oh,
no wonder it's so strong. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
Jeff's been cleaning and running around. No,
it's got
you
some
don't want
punch.
to do. You don't want to do a double at like 8 o'clop at night because you'll be up. All right,
Thanks,
we have
Tony. By the way,
so much to get into. We'll talk to Tanya Powers coming up in a second. I'm hoping the TV is working. It seems to be up and down here. It's back, and it's back. Tanya Powers, there's so much to talk about here, right? We'll get into that. Peter Franklin, the Gabby Cabby. Anybody see Bird Box yet? The movie?
I haven't. I was going to. So the flight to Florida was 3 hours, and I didn't because apparently on Netflix now you can download to your iPhone movies and watch them.
Although
when
they're in a fight with Apple right now over. You can't buy from within the App Store now. It's there's something going on there,
really?
But still,
okay.
You can download it before you get on a flight, and you wouldn't need internet service.
Right. So I was going to watch that, but then the flight ended up only being 2 hours, and I was like, I'm not going to get 2 hours into this 3 hour movie. And
we have a new. We'll talk about it.
I want to see it.
It's a movie that was debuted on Netflix. If you haven't heard about it, there's all these funny videos and memes going around, and it's. I saw the movie. Have you seen it?
No, he saw it.
Okay. Everybody's talking about it.
You saw it. You walk away.
But don't. I'll get to it. I want to take Tanya right now. So keep walking back and forth. Joel Barkin from Oneida Indian Nation is on this morning on sports betting, coming to the Turning Stone. Pretty excited about that, and we'll talk to Ryan Nobles from CNN later. Let's go to Fox now with Tanya J. Powers standing by. One of the stories out there is we're lobbing tear gas into the southern border area because migrants are throwing rocks and stones. And what is going on there, Tanya? Good morning.
Good morning. And by the way, I want to hear more about the movie you're talking about.
Oh, we'll get into that before you go. Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll do that. This was an exchange that happened right after into the early hours of the new year. Actually, late Monday is when this happened, and about 150 migrants had gathered at a section of the fence there in Tijuana to try and cross into the United States at the border. A lot of them were people who are seeking asylum. They have been waiting to have their claims processed, and some of them, I guess, got fed up with it, so they decided to, rush the border, so to speak. About a third of them turned back into Mexico when they saw the Border Patrol agents that were there. Then some of them had apparently tried to hand over they call them toddler-sized children, I guess, because they don't know the exact age, but that's how large they were. But they were kind of trying to hand them over the razor wire to get them into the United States. That's not the only people who were attempting to get over, but that's part of the whole thing. And so apparently some of them decided to throw rocks at the Border Patrol agents, and that's when these volleys of tear gas were fired. I think 3 of them is what the Associated Press photographer who witnessed it saw. 3 of the instances of tear gas being fired into the crowd. It also got women, children, and journalists in the process of aiming at the rock throwers.
So what is what ends up being the answer? If they're throwing rocks, if this is happening, if obviously spraying bullets would be just horrific, the thought is the tear gas is meant to dissuade people. It does seem that coming out of there, and this is Border Patrol people saying we are not equipped for this. I mean, and I think they're being put in a very, very difficult position. Whether it's trying to stop these large crowds from coming over or handling them once they get here. I don't think we're equipped for it.
Yeah, they detained about 25 of them. Like I said, some of them turned back into Mexico. They're apparently, like I said, there's these, I won't call them settlements. Shelters is probably a better word in Tijuana. remember that we'd heard so many of them, thousands that are waiting to get across. There apparently is a backlog of about 3,000 names at the San Diego crossing, and that was before the caravan apparently got there. So you're talking about a very, very long wait for these people who are seeking asylum. The Border Protection folks say they are looking into the incident. They're reviewing it to see, make sure that they were in compliance with the use of force policy that they have. No word on when they'll be through with that review or any of that.
All right. Okay, interesting story. If you have a minute, I'll explain the Bird Box. Have you seen it yet?
Yeah.
Have you seen the movie?
I saw it actually in November at an early preview, and I couldn't wait till everybody else saw it so we could talk about it.
I got to tell you, I watched a report on one of the networks last night, and they were interviewing just random people, and the number of people who've seen it is astounding because this movie it debuted on Netflix and not in theaters. Mm-hmm. But I got to tell you, I just thought it was riveting. I loved it. What did you think?
I did too. When I saw it, I was just very, I don't know. It really surprised me. I didn't expect it to be quite so, edge of your seat sort of thing.
Did you see it in a theater, or did you see it? Did you have a pre-screening through your house?
I saw it in a theater.
Wow!
Like a friend of mine invited me to a Directors Guild showing of it, and they actually had a talk session after it with Sandra Bullock and Trevante Rhodes.
Wow, that had to be really cool.
And the director Suzanne Bier, I believe is her last name. Anyway,
Bier.
Yeah, so it was really interesting to hear them talk about making it, and especially from Sandra Bullock's perspective of having a blindfold on and everything. It was really it's a really interesting movie.
I love the memes that are going around. It's like, I watched Bird Box last night, and there's a video of somebody blindfolded, and they're driving into the curb and everything. But
which Netflix had to come out on Twitter and say, please don't blindfold yourself and walk around public.
I think they're loving coming out on Twitter and making that statement because this movie is a huge success. And the experiment of debuting it on Netflix, my wife was like, well, there are a lot of movies that are, those are made by Netflix. This is a motion picture that was made to debut in theaters, and they changed their minds and thought it would be an interesting stunt to debut it on Netflix. And it's just become, it was the holiday craze, the holiday hit.
Yeah, it really was. What did all of you think? What did the rest of the guys think?
All right, Angelo saw it. I loved it. Angelo, who's a high school senior intern here, so I enjoyed it. Hold on, your mic is up now. What did you think?
I enjoyed it. My family thought it was lacking, but I overall enjoyed it.
I've heard people say it was lacking. That was what I saw on TV last night. Half the crowd was like, the other half was like, oh my God, I felt it was like riveting.
Can I ask you a question?
It was one of those movies that made you, I don't know, I was fidgeting in my seat in my living room because I bought in.
Don't spoil it for me, but in watching the previews, I got the idea. What was the movie that was done in Little Falls?
Is it like The Vision, Quiet Place?
A Quiet Place, which is Krasinski, who, by the way, just recently announced that he's doing a sequel to that. I'm not sure if it'll be filmed up here like the previous one. But would you agree with that? A Quiet Place, it's a similar concept.
See, I haven't seen that one.
Okay,
so
you should see that one.
The thing I keep seeing the comparisons to that one. So, I think it's probably.
So it seems with Bird Box it's sight, and then with A Quiet Place it's sound, which is
interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
and how do you go wrong when you've got Sandra Bullock? I mean, she's intense.
Phenomenal.
It was. I really liked it.
Listen, and it's a great thing. This was a great experiment to be able to see the movie on Netflix. How many people would still see it? But I wonder how much did they give up as far as box office receipts to do this on Netflix? What would they have made at the theater versus? I mean, everybody has a $10.99 subscription. I don't know how much they rake in off of that. The people who made the movie.
Netflix has to pay to, and I'm sure they get a cut. I don't know, Tony, what the
$150 million.
is.
You think? I mean, because that's usually what box office receipts are now for a big movie. You get $150 million, $300 million.
I think, Tanya, this is going to mean that other movie houses production companies are going to do the same thing. Don't you think?
I think so too. I mean, we've already got Amazon, making movies. Granted, those are usually in theaters, but I mean, they're already doing it. You've already seen. I mean, just things are changing the way people get their entertainment.
Yeah.
That's just a fact of life.
Yeah, this might be one of those. You remember Sopranos was a biggie. That was a big turning point for home box office, HBO. This might be one of those where people say, when we look back, it's that Sandra Bullock movie that was the first one to really make the turn, changing things for theaters. So, all right, Tanya, interesting stuff. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Always, thank you.
And Tanya J. Powers from Fox News. So we have we've been off since our Christmas Eve show. That show, if you didn't get a chance to hear any of it or hear any of the replay, was really an awesome year. Probably one of our best years ever of doing that show. It was funny. It was entertaining. It was crazy. What came out of it? Anything big come out? Chief Brooks always seems to lay something out there, right?
He does. He seems to.
And the year before, he was saying he might be running for mayor. But this year, he might as well have just said that Joe Marino was running for mayor.
And there's always some uncomfortable person right in close proximity. So 2 years ago, he said, I'm running for mayor, and this guy's going to be my public safety commissioner. And I think it was Steve Houck.
Yeah.
And then basically announced that Joe Marino was running for mayor.
And he was standing right next to Joe Marino and putting his arm around him. Now, Joe Marino has not announced that he is running for mayor, just to be official here. But he was having a good time with it, I believe Chief Brooks was. So,
yeah.
All right, hold on. Lots more to get into. Peter Franklin, the Gabby Cabby in New York City, our first time for 2019, speaking with him. Nagel is in. He has a big food/beer tasting that he's going to be doing here locally. We'll talk about that. He works at the Buried Acorn Brewery. And it's like, I say he works there, but it doesn't seem like it's work. He loves this job. They make some really clever beers. Brandon Lang on the wild card weekend ahead. We can talk a little bit about Syracuse. How about their first 10-game win season since 2000 and what, Davey?
2003.
Was it
2003. So
Did
pretty
anybody?
big. And they played. I mean, they handled that game quite easily.
They did. West Virginia was without their starting quarterback, which is something we had talked about. So
there was a lot of that going on in these other bowl games.
Boy, it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It does.
Which
kind
to
of
me-
are we in a new trend where all of a sudden, we've seen it in basketball, but here in football now, you're seeing these guys decide it's not worth going out there and getting injured and blowing a multi-million-dollar career.
Which I understand, but at the same time, that could have happened the game before you were going to skip. And if you're a scout for the NFL team, I want to see how that person performs on the highest stage.
What'll be interesting is to see how the scouts react to it. There was a lot of talk about that. Will the NFL react saying, well, I don't think so. I think the NFL is going to be like, we don't want you playing, to be honest with you.
We'll take the stars as healthy as we can get them. Thank you.
Yeah.
And one other quick thought on that. If you're a super fan, like, for instance, you went down, you happened to be down, but a lot of people from Syracuse traveled. Now, Syracuse didn't have this problem where they didn't play starters,
right?
But Georgia did. Georgia was trying to get into the college football playoff, didn't make it, and basically the coach went, okay, well, we're going to play all next year's players. But imagine paying the money you pay to travel all over to follow this team, the boosters, and then you go there, and the team's not even trying.
And it turns into the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
And you know how popular the Pro Bowl is.
I mean,
I think that's worth talking about. We have a whole bunch more to get into. China has landed on the dark side of the moon. Pink Floyd fans all over, just rejoicing. What label, by the way?
Harvest.
Okay, thanks. Angelo's a savant. Mm-hmm. We'll just leave it at that.
I spent a lot of money on a very cool album the other day. It's Billy Joel's debut from 1971. But the cool thing about it is the original was pressed at the pitch was screwed up by 8%. So I have the original where the pitch is incorrect, and that's what's so cool about it. Because
I wonder, do you know the value on that?
It really depends on where you buy it, because I've seen copies go for like as little as like 20 to 30, and I've seen other copies sell online for like $250.
Yeah, I mean, that stinking eBay ruins everything. We'll talk about it. Hold on. And by the way, I got my son the Africa album, which was on that Black Friday day. How many did they release that day?
I think
it's a small number,
like in the thousands.
So
that's the Weezer version,
vinyl
right?
is the Weezer version of Africa. The vinyl is back. All of a sudden, it's a big deal for for kids.
There's another Record Store Day coming up in April. That's the actual official one where there's even more releases than there was for Black Friday.
All right, really cool. The services, the news feeds, they're all off until Monday because they're like, why would you come back on Thursday and Friday?
Well,
what am I going to do? Sit home and eat the leftovers?
This is actually, I think, a better way to go, especially from the standpoint of like everybody else who works in, I don't know, I'll call it the real world. Not that this is
they're
the
all
real
back
world.
at least by today.
Well, some for Wednesday.
Schools are all back today. Some schools in the Valley went back yesterday. So
one of the things that's helpful is having a routine and getting back into that routine. It actually kind of helps you.
So when Monday hits.
Well, but no, I'm
You're
saying all these folks are back and they want their morning show.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So I think now is actually the
well, I
better
don't think
time
they
to
want
come
this
in.
morning show, but I appreciate your thoughts.
There's a couple people out there. I actually
Jeff and I were at the game last
One or
night.
two
we
of
went
them.
to the Comets game, and there were a couple people that were like, "Are you guys actually going to be on tomorrow?"
I actually did get a lot of that over the little break. When are you coming back? I'm sick of I already heard the interviews. Come back. Okay.
Listen, we like vacation too, so that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
However, it just becomes, unless you do, like Andrew got away, so that's real. But when you're home and you're entertaining, you're bringing people are stopping by, and you've got, how much pumpkin pie can you eat?
I hear you.
How much stuff can you consume? It gets to be a little bit, I'm looking forward to getting back on my diet.
Well, it's your diet. Well, that's one thing people, of course, go off during the holidays. The other thing is I've had a couple of people tell me that they were looking forward on Tuesday and that they were going back to work Wednesday or Thursday. I'm looking forward to getting back into work.
Yeah.
I've had 10 days off. I've had a week off. I'm ready to go back. And then a couple of those people I also talked to after, and they're like, yeah, I was at work for like 3 hours, and I'm like, man, why did I want to come back for this? I wish I was still on vacation.
It reminds me of
Careful what you wish for.
When I graduated from high school, I was like, wow, this is over. I really miss it. And then I went to college, and I'm like, okay, now I remember what I hated about this.
Yep.
What the hell was I thinking?
Doesn't take long.
The safest airlines. What did you fly on, Andrew?
Frontier.
I'm hearing that the trips nonstop, by the way, to Florida are pretty flawless.
Yeah, I mean, there was a little bit of a delay on my flight out.
3 hours?
2 hours.
2 hours.
They gave me.
What time did you leave?
I ended up leaving at like 9.
Because usually that first flight out is the
I flew
is the one that doesn't delay.
That's the thing. I usually fly first thing in the morning, but I flew in the afternoon. I was supposed to leave at 7:45 at night.
The rule on Frontier is get the earliest flight you can get.
Yeah. So,
because that one's always on time. By the end of the day, you're on 2, 3, 4, 5 hour delays.
But on the way back from Tampa to Syracuse, it was for some reason a shorter flight, and it was on time. Everything was smooth. I was very happy.
The safest airlines, according to airlineratings.com, these are the safest in the world. 21 is, there's 21 of them.
This is stupid.
I felt safe on Frontier, but
the
seats were like stadium seats with padding.
Safest how?
The seats were not comfortable on the plane. Like the stadium, like the dome seats when you're up.
You're absolutely right. It is, those seats are, and God forbid if you have a laptop, good luck typing with your chin.
Yeah, well,
because even I don't know how big people do it.
The tray table is the size of an iPhone.
It is. The tray table is tiny.
I was like,
if you took a dinner plate, half of it would be on the tray. Half of it.
Sir, could you put your little flap of plastic up, please? We're landing.
Yeah. Like that matters.
Your list here. I'm not that you came up with the list, but I don't like this list already. I haven't even heard one thing about it.
Yeah.
The safest airlines. I mean,
well, it's like anything else. I mean, it's like what is the best of the best? But they're using real statistics. So how many times there's an emergency landing on a flight? Which airlines?
It's not always a death.
Which airlines get grounded? Which airlines are being ticketed by the FAA? Okay,
fair enough.
And are there any that have never crashed before? And there are airlines that have never crashed before.
Well, this is a good list because now I want to know.
So I'm going to give you 5 of them because there's a whole bunch. But on the list, the 5th safest airline, and the list I have, by the way, is 21. Let's see if Frontier is anywhere near it because I don't think they are.
What was the other
Give you
discount?
an idea, British Airways is 7th. The Emirates Air is 9th. These are all ones that we really thought are just unbelievably safe, right?
Well, that's the thing.
So it gives you there are a lot of airlines out there.
Yeah.
I read a story yesterday that in 2017 there was 13 deaths from plane crash around the world. There was 500 last year. Only one in-air
500
death.
plane crashes.
Well, 500 deaths, yeah.
500 deaths.
500 deaths in 2018, up from 13 the year before, and only one in America, and it was that woman on the Southwest flight who, remember the window, that something broke the window.
That's the thing. All it takes for a death is, it's some freak accident, or a big plane goes down and, 300 people die. So
I forgot about that getting sucked out of the plane.
And that was like a week before I flew on Southwest.
American Airlines has been named the 5th safest airline in the world. American Air.
Okay.
They've been in business since 1926. The current incarnation of the carrier formed in 2013 after a merger with U.S. Air. I had forgotten that U.S. Air and American Air had merged. The Fort Worth, Texas-based airline has not had a fatal accident unrelated to terrorism. Remember, they were one of the planes included in 9/11. They have not had a fatal accident in nearly 2 decades. Number 4 on the list is Nippon, Nippon. All Nippon Airways is well regarded for its consistent and high-quality service. ANA, you'll see it listed in airports. Number 3, Alaska Airlines. Actually is based out of Seattle. The carrier is a mainstay on the West Coast. Alaska Air has not had a fatal crash since the year 2000. New Zealand Air has been listed as the 2nd safest. And Qantas, I believe that's Qantas is how it's pronounced.
That was the top 5?
Qantas is number 1. The Australian carrier is the Volvo of the airline industry, a company whose reputation and mystique is built upon its clean safety record. This is for the good reason. The 96-year-old airline has never had, actually they had a fatal crash in 1951, but since then have not had a fatal crash.
That's impressive. I'm kind of disappointed because all the ones that we all fly aren't on there. United, Continental, American,
unsafe.
Southwest,
they're
Delta.
Yeah.
So was
you have the 2 budget ones out of
Allegiant and
Frontier and Allegiant.
The other,
There's also a Spirit Air, which I hear is the sketchiest of all.
Yeah.
That's from my aunt. But was Captain Sullenberger, Sully, the guy who landed on the Hudson, was that American Airlines? Was he a U.S. Air pilot, or was that United?
I don't remember. I thought that was United.
Because that would probably, put them. That should put them up. That their pilots are so great they can land on a river.
They can land on, they can land in the Hudson. Let's see. The president's going at it with. How about Mitt Romney?
U.S. Airways. Sorry.
Leave it to Mitt to be all in on the president. He's all in. Let's get elected, and he pens an op-ed. Is that surprising?
We're talking about Mitt Romney?
Yeah.
Well, no, he wasn't all in on Trump. Matter of fact, I remember the...
Well, no, before, but then when he ran for the Senate.
Trump was all...
Mitt Trump was all in on...
No. Mitt Romney was all against Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
But Mitt Romney just ran for Senate, and he had made up with Trump. Things were good. He gets elected, and he pens an op-ed that is anti-Trump. Is that any surprise? And now you've got Trump coming out and ripping on Romney. I think what he said is, if Mitt Romney would have been half as critical of Obama as he is of me, he probably would have won his. He would have been president. Anyway, some think that Mitt Romney might be considering a run against it. It's expected that there could be a Republican that runs against the president in 2020. The primary is the president. That would be pretty much unheard of, right? Blood pressure meds have been recalled. Did anybody see this?
No.
I recently went on blood pressure medicine. My blood pressure is a little bit high, so that's been fun. Because with every medicine you take, there is a side effect.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you hear a bell, an angel gets its side effect from blood pressure medicine. It does happen.
I've got insomnia, Bert.
Anyway, you never know what it's going to give you. Trust me. Very interesting finding the
My
perfect.
mouth's bleeding.
The China has landed on the dark side of the moon. A Chinese spacecraft on Thursday, unmanned, has made the first ever landing on the far side of the moon. The Lunar Explorer Charge E4 touchdown. I'm sure they don't pronounce it that way in China, but touchdown at 10:26 a.m. Chinese time. And there's still a large group of NBA players saying, didn't happen, not real, fake. We'll talk to Peter Franklin, the Gabby Cabby, in New York City, coming up next at WIBX. Good morning, Peter. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, live from the beautiful cold streets of New York.
It is a little cooler. We've had some weird weather. Like we're up in the right about 32, and it's freezing rain and snow, and it's just been really weird over the holidays. So, but an awesome.
Yeah, but summer's around the corner.
It's just around the corner.
I know they're doing
another
Masters
6 months.
promos.
I already said the
No,
man.
I say it. That's going to make everybody. If somebody's
That's true.
listening to you in the morning, just turned to their wife and said, "Hey, sweetheart, that cab driver from New York said summer's right.
Summer's
right
almost around the corner, yeah. It's funny because over the break, I had texted Andrew and Manaski, hey, the Masters commercial is on, which is in April. So they're already advertising that. That means it's almost like the groundhog has seen his shadow.
So all this means I was right.
You're absolutely 100% right. So it's a coming. Blue flash of light that lit up the city sky this week. What was that?
Well, there was something to do with Con Edison, our electric company. Some circuit breaker didn't work right. But the thing is, they got like 4,000 phone calls from people claiming that they were probably seeing aliens arriving. I mean, that's a tremendous number of people.
Yeah.
And the thought struck me that if there was something out there that had the technology to go from one galaxy to another, they wouldn't have to sneak around at Queens in the middle of the night. They'd land on the White House lawn and say good morning to everybody.
Right. It's a very good point. I mean, what?
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to be afraid of us. And the first thing I would do would be to offer them some bagels, New York bagels, and the Martians would probably say, this would probably go good with lox.
There's nothing like the New York City bagel and lox. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was my bagel joke.
I like it, Peter. How about the story of the president? Word coming out on how he avoided the draft. It's surprising that it's coming out now, but what are we learning here, Peter?
Yeah, but it's how it's coming out. It's coming out by the two daughters of the doctor who supposedly faked the report. I mean, talk about selling out Papa. I mean, that's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
In any event, the doctor is a foot doctor, and according to his two daughters, he kind of faked the credentials or whatever it is so he could avoid the draft. But as I say, the thing that struck me is everybody could just ask themselves, how many of you would rat out your parents?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah.
And this seems to happen with Trump all the time. There's like his attorney. Trump says that my attorney says things that were privileged and he shouldn't be talking about them.
Yeah,
same thing with his doctor.
For a guy that likes loyalty and really demands loyalty, no one is loyal to him.
Yeah, and your doctor can't, like Bill, your doctor's not allowed to tell his siblings what your condition is and what's really going on with you.
Yeah. I wonder how
And also, I'm sure it's a crime. I wasn't quite clear from the article whether Dad was dead or not.
Yeah.
But I'm quite sure that's a crime.
Yeah, I think you're right.
That if you're going to have some FBI guy come over to the doctor if he's still alive. So the moral of the story is, folks, you can rat out anybody you want, but not your mother or your father.
Yeah. Forget the Trump in this whole thing. This is ratting out your dad. Not good. Not good. How about New York City's shrinking middle class is now in full retreat? What is going on here, Peter?
Moving out like crazy. I tell everybody, because I am in the tourist business, it's a wonderful place to visit, but I'm not so sure you want to live here, and it's getting tougher and tougher with the taxes. And you people know the same complaints from, upstate and all of that. And so people are leaving. I mean, they're going to other places.
Yeah.
Famous broadcasters move out.
It's crazy. Just crazy. And speaking of Peter, of course, we love talking to Peter, and I think there'll be so much to talk about here in 2019. We are working on a bus trip to New York,
Fantastic.
and it's one of those limo buses, and we would take the Peter Franklin tour, and we'd bring listeners down with us. We'll take the Peter Franklin tour around
have a great time.
New York City. And Peter, this is actually in the works right now. I realize we haven't talked to you yet, but we're going to
Be ready.
We're really excited about bringing people down and taking your tour.
I am always ready to talk about New York City.
I
Good and
feel
the bad.
we want to do like even a little mini documentary on this thing. I think it's going to be really kind of cool. So, all right, it's the best tour in New York City, Peter. I'm looking forward to 2019. Thanks for taking the time. We'll talk again next week.
You got it, sweetheart.
Peter Franklin is the Gabby Cabby. So we're going to really put this thing together, right? We're moving in the direction to make it happen.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. It's our,
I'm excited for
karaoke guy that was in for the Christmas show.
Yeah, so
he's
got a bus.
limo service, too. It's a limo bus.
It's a beautiful
Yeah.
bus.
We have a lot to get into next hour. Joel Barkin, Vice President of Communications for the United Indian Nation. Excited to talk to Joel about sports betting, and he'll give us the rundown and the timeline and how this whole thing is going to work, along with our free money question from a biker coming up. You could qualify to have your entire college loan debt paid off.
Oh, I'm dealing with that right now.
So go to, I am too. And it's not my college loan.
It's your daughter's, and she hasn't even left yet.
And I haven't even started hers yet. That's coming. Hers is her college loans. I feel that when she goes to college, I'm going to get some sort of relief because the money we pay in dance is just crippling us.
Can this be credited to her
swear
college?
to God, it'll be when she goes to college, it'll be like, wow, what a relief. Yeah, but you got to pay her college loans. Yeah, but I don't have to pay her dance loans off anymore.
Oh, boy. And outfits, too, right? They got to get the outfits and the shoes.
It's unbelievable. I need there's a $38 headband, but I have to add this little fake diamond to it, so it's $160. That, and, of course, the dress. And by the time you're done, it's unbelievable.
Don't
that
forget
dance
that
racket.
$50 handling fee.
I used to think travel baseball was like, wow, boy, they get you every time. They want you to bring food to share with the other parents when we travel to Albany. Yeah, it's going to start to get costly. This is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Not to mention all the so you're there the whole day, like you've talked about. You're there the whole day, and then you're going to a restaurant, maybe having some libations.
Because when you travel, when the competitions start. But she loves it, and so do we.
That's worth it then,
Yeah.
right? If she enjoys it.
What's
your story? I want to know your story. You're on the fence about telling it, or was that part of it?
Well, no. I'm going to tell you something. My daughter had signed up online for this service. It's a company that is a national company that has a brick and mortar store here. I'm not going to get into which one it is yet.
Okay. But this isn't a college application thing, is it?
No.
Okay.
Anyway, she then decided, you know what, I don't want to do it. So I said, all right, well, I want you cancel and don't do these things without asking. Well, Mom said I should do it. Okay, just come to me on these things, please, because these subscriptions will get you.
Yeah,
that's the thing. You sign up and say, all right, I'll remember to cancel.
Auto renewal.
You better put it on your calendar and have a reminder pop up because it auto renews, and that's the scam. And listen, I'm all for going and working out and getting a nice fitness program. But when you sign up and it's recurring,
yep,
you continue to, are you going to go? Are you really going to? Because you're going to get charged, whether you go or not.
Yep.
And this is something that is somewhat similar. So the contract that she signed up, and by the way, she is not 17 or 18; she's 16.
Bill's already preparing his credit card argument defense.
Oh,
legal defense.
She has no right to make a charge. She can't, and maybe I'm wrong, and maybe Habaika will call up and tell me I'm wrong, but she cannot enter into a contract at age 16.
Right.
So I don't want to go down this road, but let me just explain. So the contract, and I read it, said you must cancel the next month. And we're only talking like $38, but still, it's $38 coming out of her. That's a lot of money for her.
Yeah.
Anyway, and it's principal. So the business she tried to cancel on Sunday, or was it Monday? What was the 31st? Monday.
Monday, yes.
So she canceled because the contract says you must cancel the subscription on the 30th or the last day of the month.
Which
period.
Would be the 31st.
You must cancel on the 30th or the last day of the month.
Okay.
Period. What does that mean to you?
The 31st counts.
One would think. Except they said, no, I'm sorry, you're too late. You'll have to cancel and pay for January and cancel in February. That only applies to February. What do you mean that only applies to February? But it doesn't say that.
Right.
So now they sent us another document, which was an addendum that they added just recently that states it's the 30th, except in February, it will be on the 28th. But it doesn't say that. The agreement that she signed and agreed to at the age of 16, underage, doesn't say that. It says the 30th or the end of the month. Now, I don't want to be technical here, but there's two things here I have a problem with. Number one, she's too young to enter into any subscription, any agreement. Number two, she, the 30th and the end of the month. I'm sorry, it's very ambiguous, and it doesn't clearly state that is the case. Well, otherwise, she would have canceled it on Sunday. Yeah. And she waited till the 31st. She knew she had to have it done by the 31st. But beyond this, I got to tell you something. You know who's unbelievable, and you wouldn't even believe it, is Amazon. I'll give you a perfect example. I discovered that my wife and I both had an Amazon Prime account. Now, I find out it became very confusing after I did this, and I'll explain. But we're paying so much per year. It's like $130 or whatever it is a year to have Amazon Prime. But I can have 5 or 6 people from within my family to be on it. So you have a family account. We had 2 accounts.
Yep.
So I called up Amazon, and I actually reached somebody. This is why this company is so dangerous, Amazon, because they're good. Yeah. You would think that you're screwed. It's some gigantic company. You're going to call. You're not going to be able to talk to anybody like this goofball outfit that, by the way, has a brick-and-mortar store in New Hartford. I'm not sure how I'm going to handle going over there today, but it ain't going to be pretty. Anyway, so I called Amazon and said, I just realized for the last year we've had 2 accounts. And, Mr. Keeler, that does not make sense. They went back and refunded every month on my wife's.
Yeah.
Wow. And then gave us a coupon for the inconvenience.
You're kidding me.
That's how you do business. Now, guess what? We ended up spending a lot of money on Amazon and Christmas time, but I'm going to tell you, you have a problem, you call them, a human answers the phone, and they take care of you.
I can't believe
that's how you do business.
Yeah.
By this company saying, screw you. We know you're not going to use the service, but we're charging you anyway for $30, $38. You're going to put me in a position where I'm going to be standing outside and I'll do it in the snow and the rain because I'm that kind of an a-hole, okay? For $38, I am in the process of vowing to cost them far more than $38.
Yeah. It's the principle. I'm with you on this.
God bless it, spray tan. Are you kidding me?
There's the scam element.
It's the principle. It's because my wife said it's $38.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
No. And by the way, I like this service. I don't care. You can't go there anymore. You can't go there anymore.
Listen,
I want to find another place that offers the same service that's locally owned because these guys are not locally owned. This is a national company. Yeah. They don't care. Go ahead. Like in New Hartford, you complaining about us is going to hurt our business. Go ahead. Screw you. Yesterday, they text you. I have someone texting me. I can't talk to anybody in the resolution center who's probably some 22-year-old that's
sitting
sitting there.
You see anybody that works there, they're all under.
Well, this
21.
is some far away place. You can't talk to. You can't when you call the local number. It automatically forwards to the national number. It's the principle. It's don't treat us this way. Our money has a little bit of a value, and guess what? A bad story can come back to haunt you, even if you're some big national company. And if that isn't important, then why is the largest company, one of the largest companies in the world, Amazon, so willing to take care of you on a whim? Even if it was your own mistake. It was our mistake. We signed up twice. They didn't make the mistake.
Correct.
We did, and they still refunded us the money.
Yeah, I'm shocked that Amazon did that because you're right. No one made you do that. You guys just made a mistake, and it probably should have cost you. They went above and beyond. That's awesome. The other problem I have with this other company you're talking about that's not refunding you and telling you can't opt out because it's the 31st versus the 30th.
Isn't that alone like absurd?
That's the
Well,
most
the fact they
like
had to
your
change
daughter.
their
What are they?
contract.
Apparently, they're the IRS. They are the IRS.
Your daughter is like on Sunday ready to opt out, and she's like, "No, I can't do it now. I have to set an alarm.
Yeah.
I can only do it tomorrow." That is so.
But getting back to the
stupid.
contract,
She felt she
it's-
had until.
Well, yeah, because it says the 30th or the final day, and then they send you a contract addenda to explain themselves.
Correct.
Is bad news.
The fact, number one, that you are. Here's the number one. You're talking to me. I didn't form the contract. I didn't sign the deal. I'm telling you, my daughter is 16 and underage. And guess what? If she wasn't, you wouldn't be talking to me because I can't deal. I can't call up for Jeff Manaske and start canceling your account, right?
Correct.
You're an adult. You signed a deal. I'm sorry, sir. Our agreement is not with you. We can't speak with you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you've already taken the leap that you're speaking with me because I am her father, her guardian. So now you've already acknowledged the fact that she's too young to do business on her own, and you're allowing her father to come into play. That's already admitting that she shouldn't have been able to do this. And we're not asking for the money that she spent in December back. We're not asking for that. We just don't want to spend more money in January. To me, it is a slap in the face to any consumer out there. And the problem we have, I'm not criticizing my wife because that'll get me in trouble, but it's very easy when we find a service that we like that doesn't necessarily treat us well, but we like the service because we like the price. So we look the other way because of that. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you have to create a little bit of inconvenience, I'm afraid, just because it's principle. And we forget about principle today.
The Attorney General's office, you could call and file a complaint. I don't know that gets you your $40 back.
Attorney General's office, Better Business Bureau. The fact
Better
that
Business Bureau, I don't know.
The fact that she's 18, and clearly the contract is muddy. Just saying on the 30th or the end of the month, that gives us the option.
Why would they even say
the
that?
end of the month? The end of the month was Monday. So
what card is it? Is it a local card? The card that you paid on?
Yeah. That's the other place that I could go and say challenge the fee. But
because the place
anyway, it is what it is.
Do business with, they would fight that for me, and they'd say, "No, we're not going to pay them if you tell us we're not supposed to pay them."
I'll do that. Anyway, that was my day yesterday, and I get hyper focused on this stuff. I swear to God, I
know you do.
I'm looking for poster board. Okay.
He actually called Jim Zecca and said, "Hey, get a crew together. We're protesting."
That's right.
Be there at 2:00.
There's a gathering at the New Hartford Shopping Center.
No tanning downtown. That's my new slogan. 7:28. Hold on tight. I want to get to our free money question from Hobica. It's worth $100 here this morning, and it's a goodie. I think we have a good one to get into. And Joel Barkin from the United Indian Nation. Here's something I didn't think about because we talked with Joel back in August, and it looked like the Oneida Nation was going to start doing sports betting sometime in September.
Right.
But the part that I didn't think about, because they can do it, they're a sovereign nation. They could. But the part I didn't think about is it's not as much about the legalities of it, cutting a deal with the government. It's more about cutting a deal with someone who's going to back the bet. Now, I might be wrong. I'm just surmising here. But it looks like they're entering into an agreement with Caesars.
Yeah.
And they'll be backing these bets. So the part I didn't think about is that the Oneida Nation had to come up with someone who they were going to be basically in business with. And when you're negotiating, chances are you're negotiating the cut.
Yeah.
Who's going to give us the best deal on these bets? So it'll be interesting to see what he has to say. But that's the part of this I didn't really think much about.
Well, and
that might be the reason for the delay. So we'll get into it coming up with Joel. Good morning, Jane.
Good morning.
Oh, would you wish my mother-in-law a happy birthday? My wife just called me and said, "What are you thinking? You forgot your mother-in-law's birthday."
Well, go ahead, Jane. Do it.
Go ahead. Her name
Happy birthday.
Donna Timms.
Happy birthday, Donna.
There you go.
Okay.
You get a cake from the floor.
You get a cake. You get a cake. How you doing?
I do?
How you doing, Jane? No, we're gonna.
Good.
Do we
On
have
your birthday,
do we have an extra gift card though? If she doesn't win the $500, do we have a 72 Tavern and Grill gift card? Davey's like, I don't know. Well, let's see if we can do that.
We've been off.
Don't know.
Wow, we're
Maybe
gonna
we'll
see.
give you a cake. or
Okay,
something.
let's try to win the $500.
We'll get you something.
Jane, here we go. In Rome, you'll have 7 seconds to answer this. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, you have to answer on either the last day of the month or the 30th.
Or the
30th. Okay, here you go. You got to fill. You'll have 7 seconds to answer this, Jane. Are you ready?
Yes.
NBC is the national broadcast company. CBS is the Columbia Broadcasting System. ESPN is what? Ready? Go. ESPN.
Sports News Network. Oh, I don't know.
I always have trouble with this one, remembering it, too.
That's a toughie. Do you know it? Do you guys know it?
Entertainment, sport, I don't know.
Sports Programming Network?
Technically.
Entertainment, sports programming network?
Technically, I would have accepted 2 answers, believe it or not. I would have accepted it doesn't stand for anything because today, since 1985, it became ESPN Inc. That's it. The ESPN stands for nothing. But prior to 1985, when they first started ESPN, it did. It was the Entertainment and Sports Programming Network. That's what it. That's what it stands for. So.
Didn't you say that sounded weird?
All right, I'm going to give you
So it's a trick question.
Well, Bill Morehouse, what do you think? Was it a trick question? You want to give her money? Jane, we will give you whether we're going to give you whether we have it or not a 72 Tavern and Grill gift card. That's the restaurant over at the Adirondack Bank Center. You could watch during a Comets game or one of the Utica FC, City FC soccer games or any event. You can go over there just for lunch or dinner. It's a $25 gift card, and Davey's going to hook you up, okay?
Thank you.
All right.
Have a good day.
Thank you,
Bye.
Jane.
I actually
Thanks
had
for
one
playing
of
along.
the Cobb salads finally yesterday
last night.
before the
Isn't it
game,
great?
and it was awesome.
Yeah. And big, too.
Yeah.
Entertainment and Sports Programming Network. Mm-hmm. When it first started, if you really look back on some of the early programming of ESPN, they were like broadcasting everything.
Yes.
It was some of the craziest.
Well, you know, even today, and with all due respect, I'm sorry because I'm going to offend somebody with this, but like they have an NFL, and I know we're out of the regular season, but on a typical football Sunday, they have a pre-show, even though they don't have a game on. It's a bunch of guys in the studio talking about the games, and then at 1 o'clock, when all the football games come on, they go to PBA bowling.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
They still do that to this day.
Yeah.
Well,
they also do highlight, world champion highlight.
Yeah, I mean, there's some.
The hell is highlight?
You know the thing, the old. See, exactly. It's the old game with the hook. You play where the ball. It's curved. It's a curved handle, and you throw the ball to each other.
Oh my goodness!
I think you got into some weird tobacco in Florida. Something's wrong with
it was that Red Tide, I think.
Joel Barkin is the Vice President of Communications at the Oneida Indian Nation, and big news came out yesterday. Something we talked to Joel about back in August, that sports betting is coming now to the Turning Stone Resort and Casino, and Joel is on now. Good morning, Joel.
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Happy New Year. Thanks for coming on.
Happy New Year.
Well, you know, we all thought this was going to happen in September, but I never thought that I just thought about, okay, it's legal. You guys can just do it. But at the same time, I really failed to think about you got to get somebody to work with. Otherwise, you become the bookie, if you will, right?
Well, we announced yesterday a very innovative new partnership with Caesars Entertainment, and I think what's relevant about it is a couple things. One, Caesars is the gold standard in sports betting internationally, and they were looking for a partner in New York that met its standards, that was the premier destination resort. We were looking for a partner that would help us stick out and exceed whatever our competition had, and it was sort of a natural marriage. So we're extremely excited, and not only is it, I mean, beyond sports betting is the broader relationship that this allows us to form with Caesar, where our players will be able to use their points and tier levels at any Caesars property on the planet.
Wow.
And Caesars players will be able to use their points and tier levels at our properties, which we are very confident that Caesars has about 55 million players, members across the globe. Many of which, many millions of which are in New York and in the New York area. So we are confident that this is going to both help from a tourism standpoint, bring new people to property, and also be a huge benefit for our players.
I got to tell you, my next question was going to be, why wouldn't you guys just? I mean, you stand by every bet that's made inside the resort currently, and some people make some really big bets, and you guys back all of those. Why wouldn't you just get into it on your own? But this is a game changer here. This is this is bigger than just sports betting.
I mean, this is Caesars. I think it's an endorsement of the kind of property that we've tried to create here that would attract a partner like Caesars. But more so, they have 25 or decades worth of investment in technologies, in understanding how to create a environment that is really conducive for fun and enjoyable sports entertainment. Yeah. So you don't get these kinds of opportunities very often, and we really jumped all over it, and so did Caesars. So it's great.
Joe, let me ask: will you have, like typically with a bookie, do you have to be physically present at Turning Stone to place a bet? Can you do it online? I'm sure you can't call in a bet, but do you have to be physically present at Turning Stone to make a wager on a game?
So what we announced was, we will be opening at each of our 3 casinos, Turning Stone, Yellow Brick Road, and Point Place Casino, the lounge with Caesar Sports. So this is, what they call brick and mortar. So they will be at our properties. You will be placing bets at each of our properties, and they will have you name it, couches, the best televisions, food, bars. Sure. I mean, it'll be an immersive environment that I think people will flock to. So this is not online, but these are bets that are going to be made on property.
You do have to be on a Turning Stone property to do this, and that was going to be another question I had. A lot of times when people go to Vegas, you walk into a sports book and you see these incredible sports lounges with giant TVs and every game you can imagine.
That's what this will be.
You're going to have something like that going on. That's awesome.
It will be that, and I think you guys know, and the people, your listeners know that when the Oneida Nation opens something new, our goal, and Ray Halbritter's goal is always to set the standard. So we expect that this will be, it's going to really blow people away once we open these. Our construction begins immediately. I mean, it's going into existing space, which we'll have some more details in the next week or two about. But we're really remodeling almost a complete, soup to nuts remodel of these spaces that will sort of redefine what the space currently exists as.
Yeah. Joel, can I ask as well, did you have to do any agreement with the state, the feds, or Oneida County? Is there any local tax or state tax implications here as it goes to paying a percentage for a new business?
So currently, we will be submitting for review to the NIGC, which is a federal National Indian Gaming Commission, the agreement, and subsequent to that and the New York State Gaming Commission's issuance of sports betting regulations, we hope at that point to be open. I think in terms of revenue sharing, I think one thing every time I try to come on here, repeat, since revenue sharing for the Oneida Nation began in 2013, and since that time, over $250 million has been generated in revenue payments to the state, much of which, a large percentage of which going to Oneida County. So we are among, if not the highest, then among the highest generators of revenue to the county for sure, and then in the state, in this region as well. So, I think the agreement we made with Madison County, Oneida County, and New York State in 2013, I think, has been one of the most successful economic development agreements, projects in the modern history of this region, and I think that's pretty, objective at this point.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're right about the impact that has, and it is a lot.
However,
of money.
that could the thought
it would only
for,
increase their revenue.
Right. The thought for Oneida County would be that by offering sports betting, people are going to play the other games, and ultimately, the slots.
Well, I just had to ask. I didn't know if that was part of the deal.
Yes, absolutely. That was our hope, and we certainly wouldn't be doing it if not, is that this is going to increase our number of visitors. And it's going to bring more people to the property. And that's good for tourism. I think you've seen, some recent reports by Oneida County Tourism and elsewhere about the impact that Turning Stone and our other properties have had for the region on tourism.
Sure.
And then we obviously will bring more people to play, and that a percentage of our slots is guaranteed. I think one of the things with the agreement is as the nation does well, the counties will continue to do well, and we've tied the nation and the counties have tied their fortunes together.
Now, I have to ask, too, and this goes probably without saying, dumb question, but that includes probably horse racing, because there's been a time, I think 2 years ago, we were up there for the Kentucky Derby, and we were like, oh, this would be so awesome if we could, place a bet for the Derby. I mean, will you be able to do that, too, like kind of the OTB style?
So I think once the state comes out with its regulations, I mean, that will be more clear what is and isn't, but I think you can rest assured that every major sporting event is likely to be considered within that.
And you can always you can always bet on anything, right? You can call your bookie, but it's not like you call your bookie up and say, "Listen, I think I think John Madden's going to say the word whatever, the first 5 minutes." But you'll have the ability. But if you go to Vegas, they throw these out there, and they're kind of cool bets that are just novelty type things that people.
the prop bets.
And you'll have that ability. I'm assuming, everything that you guys end up doing, whether it's walking currently on the gaming floor, or walking into Wildflower, or the steakhouse, or the clubs that you have, the gig. I mean, the list goes on and on. Everything is so top notch. It's an amazing experience. I'm assuming this Vegas-style experience is going to be something people are really going to want to come out to see for sporting events.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, we really, and I think the nation's goal and its leadership have always aspired to be the top tourist destination in New York and the region, and it made those investments, whether it be through the golf courses, the lodge, spas, gaming, and it really, this just adds one more element, I think, to what people will be able to experience when they come to our properties, and that's something we're very excited about.
Timeline, what do you think?
We are beginning our construction on these 3 sports books immediately today, right?
Wow.
So we're hopeful that it will be early this year.
The other thing I got to tell you is you've added a bunch of. I know that the brick and mortar world has really changed, and what you guys were going to do versus what has occurred. You've added new stores in that whole section over by where Starbucks.
Right.
Still is
the Commons at Turning Stone.
So I got to tell you though, I really give you guys a lot of credit for something that others have criticized over the years, but you guys have made a real awesome move towards local. Mm-hmm. Now, if you go to the tavern, you're getting local beers. There's local foods. There's local. These Utica Coffee within the Turning Stone. These stores are all regionally owned. I think that's a really good part, a really good step. Not just for the economy, but for PR in terms of investing locally.
Well, I wouldn't even just say it's PR. It's really, and this is the vision of the Oneida Nation and Ray Halbritter and its leadership, in that, I think one of the things we try to distinguish ourselves from is, tribal gaming and commercial gaming are not the same, and for reasons that I think people don't always consider. But the Oneida Nation, Central New York, is their eternal homeland, and the nation leadership lives here, raises their children here, and drives these roads here. So unlike some commercial operators whose profits get sent to these global headquarters wherever, the nation reinvests its resources right back into Central New York, and all you have to do is drive around the properties to know that that's not a talking point. That's reality, and it's because there is a long-term vision. I mean, this was our 25th anniversary of Turning Stone, and if you looked at where it began to where it is now, nobody would have believed it if you told them that 25 years ago. But it is how the nation judges every business investment, is how will this impact future generations, and I think that is a value that not every business is sort of organized to do. And for the nation, there are different set of criterion when thinking about future investments that they consider.
Joel Barkin, Vice President of Communications at the Turning Stone Resort and Casino, the United Indian Nation, actually. And we appreciate the update. We're really excited about this. I can't wait to see this.
Thanks, guys. We'll keep you posted when we have more info.
Cool. Thanks so much.
Okay. Take care.
I can't wait.
Happy New Year.
You too. Thank you. Happy New Year. I can't wait to see what this looks like when it is when it's complete. It's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm excited about this too. I have to be really
hopefully
honest.
by March Madness, maybe.
And there's another element of this that is that some will say, well, but others will say this is much more responsible, because you currently can call your bookie and place a pretty good-sized bet. And the bookie might say to you, you sure you're going to be able to handle this one? And you're like, absolutely. And then all of a sudden you lose $4,500, and you're like, what the hell am I going to do now? Oh, by the way, you have until Wednesday. You better come up with the money. Here, if you're going to bet $4,500, you're going to put $4,500 down. That money's there. You have it to bet with. And the other thing that you can probably get into, and they'll allow you to do, is casino credit. If you have a credit line at the casino, you probably would be able to use that. However, for the most part, you're going to have to, you want to bet $100, you put the $100 down. Absolutely. Yeah, that's one of the differences between your bookie, right? You make a bet on a certain day, and then you pay 4 or 5 days later. This you'll have to put up front, but like you said, it eliminates the problem of people betting over their head. I'm betting $3,000 on a game or $300 on a game, whatever it is. But then payday or the day to square up comes and you don't have it. So that
or you have it, but you don't have it for your mortgage.
Well, you can still do that. You can still do that anywhere. You could take your mortgage money and go spend it at the Turning Stone. The point, though, here is you have to have physically the cash in order to make the bet. Right. Where you don't have to with. And as a young kid, I learned that very quickly when I thought I'd become something really special. I'd figured out the game. You had the gift, huh? Till I had it. Till like 1993, I bet on a Mets playoff game. The Mets were playing St. Louis. I don't even know what year it was, but there is no way they're going down in this game. They will not lose at home. They have to win this game, and they didn't. And I did not have, at a young age, I did not have the money to come up with. To pay, but you had until Wednesday to pay that off. Listen, I've heard stories, and I hate to say this, people, had a bad weekend and they got to go take a mini loan out. Yeah, no doubt. Hey, can I tell you one thing that happened to me? I've never seen this ever happen ever before. So over the holiday, I did partake a little bit at the casino and playing blackjack. I pushed with the dealer, and I'm not talking crappy cards. These were I had 19, 20, and I pushed with the dealer 4 hands in a row. Get out. It gets better. On the 5th hand, and the pit boss came over and he's like, you've got to be kidding me. On the 5th hand, I don't know, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I pushed with the dealer, and I had 4, 5, queen. The dealer had 4, 5, queen on my 5th push. Can you imagine that? So I'm like, I am bound to win. Boom, 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 boom. I lost 4 hands in a row. Just goes to show you. When you're lucky, you're lucky. When you're not, you are not. Got a break. Hold on. It's WIBX. Josh Allen, that's the NFL player, not the college.
Who I just compared to a deer crossing a highway. He's going to get clipped one of these days. He's got to stop doing
you're
that.
Right.
How many seasons before they trade him?
He does like to put himself in very difficult positions, although he's certainly gotten better. He's not hurtling people anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
But I was just saying, as a Bills fan, I feel better than I did last year when they made the playoffs. I feel like there's some hope for the future finally, right, Davey?
Right.
Yeah, feels pretty good.
He had more touchdowns than LaShawn McCoy did. LaShawn McCoy only had 3. Josh Allen had 7.
Yeah. There's got to come a point where the offensive line puts the right blocks together so that you have a balanced game and you don't rely on Josh Allen can't be your leading runner, right? So and right now that's where we're at. That's the only way they seem to get their first downs. Although McCoy looked better this last time. You got to be happy as an Eagles fan.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just don't even know what to say about Nick Foles. I mean, St. Nick, he comes through and just brings us to the playoffs, wins every game that we put him in. Nobody's beat him in the playoffs yet, and nobody's going to beat him this week. So,
I told my sister early this season, I'm like, I can't believe that he's not the starting guy. The guy wins the Super Bowl, gets the Super Bowl MVP, and then they give it to. I'm not a big Carson Wentz fan.
And can we talk a little bit about, I think Syracuse basketball is far better. We're in a better position to be under the radar right now, far better than anybody thinks. We'll see what happens there. But Syracuse football, who made the comment about Dino Babers? You better hope they don't win like 11 games next year because he's going to be gone.
Yeah, there's the up and down of college football and coaches and who's coming and going. And someone had made the point that, it's you probably don't want to see Cuse with double-digit wins next year because it's likely that Babers would be given a offer he couldn't refuse at another higher-level program.
Yeah.
So we're happy we have him now.
Although it does help being in the ACC. I mean, that is – I really didn't think that was a good move, especially for football. But now all of a sudden, I mean, it adds credibility to a program that wouldn't get it in the Big East.
Yep.
Right?
That's true.
And you can pay him like Boeheim.
Right.
If you want to keep him.
Right. If you want to keep him, you can pay him. Well, we don't know what they paid him. They say they have a deal, and it's a long-term deal, but there was an addendum there that said that doesn't prevent him from going somewhere else.
Well, and he could, like I said, he could have went anywhere. He decided to stay. I think there's real growth there. I'm optimistic about it.
Let's just be honest.
He was the second lowest paid coach in the ACC.
If we can just be honest, if you take a look at Dino Babers' resume, he enjoys going to places, building them up, and taking off. He's been everywhere. He's that Johnny Cash song.
He's been everywhere, man.
He's been everywhere.
There's two ways you can look at the official announcer from Syracuse. It said the deal, they didn't disclose the length of the extension or the dollar amount, but it said they would keep him in Syracuse well into the future. Or you can read it as, we're going to keep him, into the future. So there's a couple different.
Depends on where the comma is.
Correct, and I think it's the latter, to be honest with you.
Is it an Oxford comma or a Syracuse comma?
That's a very good question. Nagel in studio right now. Good morning and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I'm seeing this Buried Acorn beer on tap all over the place now.
Yeah,
you're doing
Despite
your job.
My best efforts.
Yeah, you're out there. So you brought in. This is a growler. So when you bring in a growler, I think that this is something that you guys have been working on. It's probably as brand new as you can get.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And you can only get it out at the brewery. And this one's called Lots and Lots IPA. So lots and lots of hops. And wild fermentation, which gives it a little bit of a funky flavor to it, Yeah. And one of the hops we use in this is called Cluster, and it has like sort of a
cheese?
Yeah, kind of like a savory sort of aroma. Mm-hmm. It's a different hop. It's a strong hop. Obviously, it doesn't taste like that, but it definitely has an aroma that is reminiscent of savory things. Mm-hmm. That's why hops are cool.
A good cheese. Yeah, it's crazy how hops can, depending on what you use, how it can it can be fruity, it can be
absolutely.
Yeah. And this is very hoppy though.
Yeah,
Very,
Definitely.
very.
Right up
good.
my alley.
This is more flowery than fruity, I would say.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is more on the sort of herbaceous and sort of savory side of hops. It's not the tropical nose and the citrus nose that you would get on a lot of hops.
Yeah.
This is more piney and weird.
Yeah.
It's good, though. This is very good.
I know.
Can I ask, you have in front of you a bottle of the Adirondack from Adirondack Distillery. Did you try that yet?
I haven't tried that yet.
Could
You're
you
gonna
try
sweat
it? Are
if
you
you
a
want to.
Okay.
Are you a
You will
bourbon
sweat.
bourbon
Yes,
guy
I am
at all?
a bourbon guy. I'm a
All
Jim
right.
Beam guy myself. but-
Okay, so I like your opinion on it. I really like this. It has a it's actually in a maple. I believe it's in a maple barrel.
Yeah.
So they went out and
You're making me really confident here.
they purchased barrels that I believe maple syrup was.
So when I used to work for McCraith, I brought in the CBS from Founders, and they
Okay.
would take they'd take a bourbon barrel, they buy a bourbon barrel from a distiller, they give it to a maple syrup producer in Michigan, they would age the maple syrup in it, give it back to Founders, and then they would put an imperial stout in it. And
I think that-
okay.
I think that's
And
what Jordan does.
That's exactly what they've done here.
Yep.
And it is in this case it's a bourbon, and I gotta tell you,
You're
there's not a lot left, is there?
No, well, this is what we toasted with at the Christmas
You're
Eve
absolutely
show.
right. Very good. I'm not going to have any.
A little cold remedy.
But I did buy a bottle the other day, and it's hard to find. There's a limited number of bottles out there. There might still be a
it
few.
says special series. I didn't
Yeah.
realize it was that limited.
What do you think of that?
See what I say? Woo is right.
It gives you almost a little bit of a, and I couldn't tell you, I'm not a bourbon person, but I get almost a little cognac feel when I drink it. What do you think?
When I get my breath back,
Yeah, it'll take your breath away.
It'll warm you up, man.
I'll be taking a nap in the parking lot before I drive home.
What do you think of that from a bourbon
No, it's very
standpoint?
good.
Isn't it? Then you get that
Absolutely,
little
and it's nice.
subtle maple there.
You can
Very
taste
subtle.
the maple in it.
Yeah, I like it a lot. So, all right, that is available.
What is the proof on that?
It's right up there. I have no idea.
They
I'd say
They
that.
say
It's
it's
40.
in the pudding.
It's 40. 75. No? 80? 80 proof?
It's 90
what are
and
we,
90 and
guessing here?
45%. I think it's 90 proof and 45%.
Yeah, it's 90 proof. It tastes all of 90 proof.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Again, that's available on a limited basis. There aren't a lot of them out there. Really worth coming out and checking out. And the Buried Acorn. This beer that you have here today is only available at the brewery right now.
And if you're ever out in Syracuse, stop by Hiawatha Boulevard. We're right next to Destiny USA.
Okay.
And we've normally got 16 of our beers on draft. Great place to just go hang out for an afternoon after you shop. Or
And they have some food, too, now, right?
No.
Not at all. Like I said, they don't have food.
Yeah, we do.
So bring
we
a
do
sandwich.
we do some food trucks and stuff like that. But
Okay, cool.
no, we're brewers.
All right.
Not
Thank you, Nagel. As always, Happy New Year. Feel
Cheers.
free to hang out. Brandon Lang, the playoff, you might want to hang for this. His picks for wild card and playoff action, and we'll do it next to WIBX. Thursday morning. It still feels like a holiday week. For some, it still is. For others, they've been back to work since Wednesday, I guess. Brandon Lang is available at BrandonLang.com. Before you do any sports betting, you'll want to go to BrandonLang.com. And good morning, Brandon. How are you?
Happy New Year, gang.
Happy New Year. By the way, the Turning Stone Resort and Casino here, the United Indian Nation, the upstate New York casino, has announced they are moving forward now with sports betting. They begin construction today. They're going to create, and they've teamed up with, who they team up with?
Caesars.
Entertainment, yeah.
Which is a really cool deal where you can now use your Caesars loyalty card or whatever it's called, your gaming card. You could use that at Turning Stone, and if you're at Turning Stone, you have a card at Turning Stone, you can use it at any Caesars. So interesting affiliation between the two.
I like that. Still to this day, the sports book at Caesar's Palace here in Las Vegas is and will always be one of my favorite spots to watch games. So if they come with anything close or duplicate to that, that's going to be a great spot. And I can't see any reason why they wouldn't sauce it up a little bit. So that's fantastic.
I think it's a pretty cool facility.
It means if you're ever in the Northeast, man, you can stop by live in studio and just drive down the road and feel right at home.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, I like the sound of that, boy.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to bring Brandon along.
And
Maybe to the inaugural bet.
It's so warm up here. You'll just love the weather.
Yeah.
Just like
Well,
Vegas.
listen,
We have tanning beds,
It's not exactly summer in Vegas.
That's
It was
what I
colder-
heard.
It was
Yeah.
colder here for New Year's than it was in Times Square. So think about that.
Think about, although, did you see those freaking people in Times Square with a downpour of rain just pouring on them? It was nice because it washed the urine out of their pants. So
I'm
glad you got that
I
up
felt
before
bad
I
for my boy Steve Harvey. He's a good friend, and I felt pretty bad for him out there in the rain, trying to stumble and bumble his way through New Year's.
Well, was it Phoenix? It was like 38 degrees or something. I mean, what is going on?
I was at the hottest part of the country.
Yeah,
when I
you
was
were in
there.
Florida. It was hot.
And it
really
was,
hot.
It was really the only place in the country it was 80.
All right. I don't want to get into the fact that Andrew went all the way to Orlando to watch Syracuse play, but never made it to the game.
I know.
That's a story in itself. Okay, here we are. Hard to believe. Wild card weekend. So let's start with Sunday's game, the late game, Philadelphia at Chicago. What do you think?
Beat them Bears.
I think the run's over for Philly special. Right now, and all these lines have moved, by the way. This one opened up 5.5. It's up to 6. I've seen a couple 6.5 in places. Chicago at home, they've won every home game this year by 7 or more, with the exception of their loss to the New England Patriots. And that was a game where Chicago was in control of the game until New England blocked a punt and returned it for a touchdown. There's something else, and it's been a great run for Philly. I give them credit for getting in the playoffs, but this Chicago team is legit. Also, Chicago has gone over the posted total in their building. I just had it pulled up I'm sorry. They've gone over the posted total 10 of the last 14 games in January. So that means when they get in the playoffs, they tend to score some points. I think you see a defensive touchdown this game. I'm going to play the over. I lean towards Chicago, but if that line goes up to 7.5, well, then I have to reconsider. But right now, gun to my head, I would lean towards Chicago.
By the way, this weekend is one of those weekends. Games will be on NBC, CBS, Fox, and ESPN, so it'll be all over the place.
Or right here.
Or on WIBX. Our man Dave, Dangerous Dave Rodriguez, is asking, what is going on with his Pittsburgh Steelers?
Oh, yeah.
You could see the writing on the wall with the fact that Ben said he was maybe going to retire and think about it. Then he said, no, he's not going to retire. That was last year. There have been some rumblings about Mike Tomlin for years. I mean, this is an organization, let's be clear here, something over 40 years of just 3 coaches. I mean, Chuck Noll to Bill Cowher to Mike Tomlin, and how long do you keep going where you get the same kind of excuses that Mike makes, which is, this is on me, and we are what we are, and I mean, that's all fine and dandy. But they've been stuck in the mud here for a few years, and it's not so much what's wrong with Pittsburgh, it's what's wrong with today's player. With social media and the players having more power due to the players' union, players are different now. Players are different than they were 20 years ago. 20 years ago, you would never do what Antonio Brown did. You'd never get in a shouting match and then not show up. And players have so much power now that they're dictating what they can and
Look at the NBA. It's already happened to the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so it's not so much his Pittsburgh Steelers by the fact they've only had 3 head coaches in 40-something years. It's the players that the Steelers have dictating. Go back to their whole season was never quite right because of Le'Veon Bell. And if you don't think that puts a cloud over your team and the negative energy and just having it, listen, it's hard. The physical abuse and toll that you put on your body in this game on Sunday, the mental aspect, you got to be so focused and so much as a team that when you have so much strife and pull from the Bell situation, it just was never quite right.
Yeah.
I think the talent is there, and they'll be fine next year, but they were doomed from the very set with Le'Veon Bell not showing up and not playing this year.
All right, with that said, the Chargers at Baltimore. It's the 1 o'clock game on Sunday.
Well, this is the one of the 3 of we have a rematch. There was no Philly-Chicago game this year, but the first meeting was 22-10. It was actually a 15-10 game with the Chargers driving to win the game, and then you got the turnover, and they returned it for a touchdown for the 22-10 win. I'm going to play this one under the posted total as well. Ravens' last 5 playoff home games have gone under. Chargers have gone under 5 of their last 6 playoff games overall. and their last 4 wild card games have gone under the post total. Leaning right now on Thursday with the game on Sunday, I would probably lean towards San Diego only because they have been so good on the road this year. Think about this. This is a San Diego team that won at Kansas City. They won at Pittsburgh. They won at Seattle. They won at Cleveland. I mean, listen, I don't know if you guys, and I would probably bet my life savings on it, that you've never been to Carson, California, but I assure you, Carson, California is not Manhattan Beach, California.
Yep.
Understand that. Carson, California is a soccer stadium in the middle of nowhere off the 405 freeway where about 4 blocks over, you're in gangland.
And nobody wants them there. It's the craziest thing.
No, and so they play better on the road than they do. And listen, Lamar Jackson, the running game, that's all fine and dandy. But at the end of the day, when you get in these playoff games and you have such a huge disparity in experience between Phillip Rivers and Jackson and the fact that San Diego has traveled so well this year, I would lean towards San Diego plus the 2.5.
Or you could lean towards L.A., but Brandon refuses.
Yeah.
Refuses.
Never. I've said it on your show a million
Los
times.
Angeles. He won't do
guys
it.
make that mistake on TV.
Yeah.
They apologize for it. I'm never going to – they're never until I die and stand before God and he says, Brandon, before I let you into heaven, you got to say L.A. Chargers. Okay, God.
Okay. All right.
And even then, I have to reconsider.
Saturday's 2 games. ESPN has Indianapolis at Houston. That's at 4:35, and then Seattle at Dallas on Fox. What do you think?
The Indy-Houston game to me is the hardest of the 4.
Yeah.
Andrew Luck went in there, threw for 399 yards, broke their 9-game winning streak, won the game 24-21. Of course, Houston won at Indy by 3. I'm on the fence on this one. This line opened up Houston minus 2.5. It's all the way down to Houston minus 1. So you have serious Indy money. I got to wait and see what the T.Y. Hilton situation is. He wasn't quite right in their win over Tennessee to get here. That ankle is definitely bothering him. Right now, gut, my lean might be toward Houston just because it's so hard for Indy to maintain what they've done without Hilton being 100%. Remember in that game, I think Hilton went for over 100 yards receiving in that big win at Houston, snapping that 9-game winning streak. And I was talking to Deuce McAllister and Bobby Hebert, did their show last night, and I said to them, guys, would you agree that when you're on a 9-game winning streak, it zaps so much energy out of you to keep going? I think it was good for Houston to lose. So J.J. Watt, Clowney, my lean is towards Houston, but if that line keeps coming down, may go back up. But if it gets down to a pick 'em, I think the value is Houston.
All right. We all good?
With the Dallas
The Dallas Seattle.
Brandon, tell me if I'm wrong. I like Dallas, and I thought they showed a lot of poise. I didn't think Garrett should have played his starters that whole game against the Giants, but that throw and catch from Prescott to Beasley, and I start thinking, and I'm like, you know what? These Cowboys could make a run. That's a tough NFC, but, boy, is Dallas under the radar, ready to shock somebody?
Yeah, when the line first came out, I was hoping to get a 3 number. I actually got every one of these lines right, every one, within a point. And so I was looking for a 3 number. It came out Dallas minus 2.5. It's now down to Dallas minus 1.5. So you're getting Seattle money coming in big. The 2 most bet games so far have been Indy and Seattle, both road teams. If that line keeps coming down, guys, I tend to agree with you. I was loving Seattle, but the more I think about it, listen, Seattle won the first meeting 24-18. Dak turned it over. The Dallas Cowboys turned over 3 times. Dak didn't play well, but listen, that's up in Seattle. Seattle's had a great run. I don't like the fact that they played their starters in that game last week when they really didn't need to, and Arizona took them to the wire. I'm starting to think Dallas is the right side.
It's BrandonLang.com, and, we're already to Thursday, so Saturday's just around the corner, so pretty cool. All right, Brandon, thanks, man. We appreciate it. We'll do it again next week.
Got it. Thanks, guys. Happy New Year.
BrandonLang.com. Happy New Year. All right, Nagel, I want you to stay one more second. We have Ryan Nobles coming up from CNN, but I have a beer/politics question for you. When beer meets politics. Remember, what was his name? He was running from Vermont there.
Bernie Sanders.
Not Bernie Sanders, the one who started screaming and his career went down the tube. Howard Dean.
In Las Vegas, in Indiana.
There might have been a Howard Dean moment, and we'll explain with Nagel coming up. I want to know, is this a Howard Dean moment by Elizabeth Warren? she is getting really ripped on when she did because, of course, she's now all in, exploratory. She's all in on running, kind of.
Yeah.
But she did a video on Instagram, and in the middle decided, ooh, wait a minute, I need a beer. Did anybody see this yet?
No.
Here's the audio. Is this a Howard Dean moment?
I don't think after Trump.
That's possible. No,
it's possible. I mean, Michael Dukakis was in a helmet in a tank, and he tanked.
Yeah.
You know, and Howard Dean made one misstep, and he tanked. And then Trump lights dumpsters on fire every single day.
But only Trump can be Trump.
I guess, yeah. I understand that. But
I don't see it as a Howard Dean moment because Dean.
It is so contrived to try to tie in with the craft beer.
Yeah. And
what is the beer? Can you see what type of beer it is?
I couldn't tell. Maybe
buried.
Ryan.
Does this say buried?
It's a buried acorn.
There you go. You really are getting around.
Ryan
no,
Nobles,
it's not.
Ryan Nobles from CNN standing by right now. Ryan, you've seen this video. Do you know what beer it was, by the way?
I don't know what beer it was, unfortunately.
All right. What do you think?
I mean, I think that Elizabeth Warren's problems are probably a little bit beyond just the contrived effort of taking a sip of beer in an Instagram video. I think it perhaps indicates that she's trying to get out from underneath that and present herself as more of a real person and not get kind of typecast because, you know, she's been attacked and maligned by conservatives for, you know, the last 4 years or so. But I think her bigger problems are that she probably had a window 4 years ago and she stepped aside to allow Hillary Clinton to run, and Bernie Sanders filled that vacuum.
Yeah.
And now at this stage, there are, you know, as many as 5, maybe 6 candidates who kind of fill that new progressive lane, which has kind of become the standard bearer now in progressive politics and in Democratic politics. And I think it's just the field's a lot more crowded, and I think that's going to be the hardest part for her.
And, you know, let's just look back to the Republican field. Who would have thought it would be Donald Trump? And, I mean, Jeb Bush was the shoo-in. It was Bush and Clinton, and look at what happened there. So there's a long way to go. Hard to believe we're already in the mix here.
I know
we are.
I kind of feel, that Joe Biden maybe be in that Jeb Bush position right now. You know, he's the one with the most name recognition. Probably has, you know, most Democrats feel a warm feeling about him, but I don't know if they necessarily are ready to say we want him to become our next presidential candidate. You do get this sense, and I think this is a problem for Elizabeth Warren too, that they want a fresh face. They want somebody new that can take on Donald Trump, and that, you know, there's, you know, maybe 15 different people that perhaps fill that bill, and that's what the next year is going to be about.
One that seems to be leading the way, though, what's his name from Texas?
Yeah, Beto O'Rourke.
Beto O'Rourke seems to be the guy that's hot right now, but it's early to be hot, right?
Yeah, I do wonder if it's possible that Beto O'Rourke peaks too quickly.
Yeah.
You know, I think the benefit that he has right now is he is hot. You know, people like him. There's a good feeling about him. But unlike Elizabeth Warren, and, you know, a lot of people asking why Elizabeth Warren got in so quickly, and it's all about raising money.
Yeah.
And Beto O'Rourke is still flush with cash. He still has kind of a fundraising apparatus in place. And so he can raise money, can continue to raise money without officially being a candidate yet. And that, you know, allows him the opportunity to kind of stay in the background, you know, put out an Instagram video or a Twitter video, and maybe put out a press release or say something about President Trump without actually saying, listen, I'm a candidate, and raise his hand. Because the second you raise your hand and say you're a candidate, you know, people are criticizing you drinking a beer on an Instagram video.
Right. Yeah.
So,
right. Yeah.
You know, it kind of changes the calculus for him a little bit. You know, the one thing I say about Beto O'Rourke is, I don't remember if I told you guys this story during the midterm campaign, is for some reason he seems to transcend, you know, the map. And it seems like there are people of all different stripes who are interested in him on some level. And I remember being in Florida covering that race, and, you know, you had the Senate race in Florida was one of the most important in the country. And some 20-year-old kid that was checking us out of a hotel in Orlando asked what we were doing because we had camera equipment and stuff. And I said, well, we were here covering the Senate race. And he looked up at me and he goes, oh, yeah, is Beto going to win? And I remember thinking, like, here's a kid, you got a chance in Florida to really be a part of this conversation. You're worried about a race in Texas. So, you know, that you can't really buy that type of interest. that people have, and I think that that's part of what will at least fuel him for the next year or so, and then we'll see what happens.
Okay, so I want to ask you, if you were to tell me, or if I were to tell you 5 years ago that there would be a Republican in the White House who, because, we keep hearing about how Trump's problems are, you'd have these problems too if the media went after you every day like they go after the Trump. And the Democrats go after him every single day like they do. But let's be honest, put that all aside. If I would have told you 5 years ago that so many hardcore conservatives, hardcore Republicans, hardcore military generals would come out in opposition to this Republican president, you would tell me I was off in La La Land. But the number of military people and Republicans, how much longer can Trump just say, oh, they love Hillary, they're Hillary lovers, they're Obama lovers, they're rhinos, they're not really Republicans? I mean, at what point does somebody say, boy, I just woke up today and realized there are really a lot of Republican conservative military people that are in opposition to this president? Yeah, it's a great point, Bill. And I do think our perception of these things has been skewed so much because of the Trump presidency. I mean, I think any one of these things that you've mentioned, if a Secretary of Defense had, if Donald Rumsfeld had stood up to George W. Bush and said to him, I do not want to invade Iraq, and sent a resignation letter that he made public to everyone in the world that said, I disagree with this idea of invading Iraq, 3 months after 9/11 or whatever, that would have been enough for, shake up
people to be calling for George W. Bush's head. That would have been the end. And here you have, a sitting Secretary of Defense who is admired by both Republicans and Democrats, who essentially said the same thing. So, I do think that the meter on this, our tolerance for this kind of thing, the perception of it overall has changed so much. And I think the biggest dynamic is that, there's a certain segment of the American public, and the vast majority of that segment are Trump supporters who no longer trust the basic institutions that kind of inform you about what's acceptable and not acceptable. Yeah. So, 5 years ago, if a senator like Lindsey Graham trashed a presidential policy, or if a incoming senator and former governor, former presidential candidate like Mitt Romney said that the president's lost his moral compass, that would be enough for average people to say, man, what is going on, and turn around and look the other way. But now that segment of the population, and it might even be more than just Trump supporters, no longer have that same faith in these institutions. They don't have the faith in the military establishment that they once had. They no longer have faith in people that have served in public office for some time. Yeah. And the embodiment of that lack of faith is Donald Trump. Yeah. So what they've now embodied that with is this guy that's sitting in the White House. So all these people who have the credentials can attack him all they want, but it doesn't matter, because if you no longer trust those credentials and you've put your faith in this guy, you're going to go with that guy. And I think that's where we are right now.
And what happens is on Tuesday, you're a trusted conservative Republican. But the moment you come out against the president and he fires back, there are people that now have deemed you someone who's not credible anymore.
It's exactly right. And so the standard by which you can lose the faith of this, and we have to keep in mind, this is, it's a significant, it's an important group of Americans, but it's not the majority by any stretch of the imagination. And you could even make an argument that it's not a large portion of the American public. It does not take much at all for them to abandon you in any way, shape, or form. I think you're right. And really all it takes is a tweet from Donald Trump for someone to lose faith in you, if you were among that segment of the American population.
It is, it's January 3rd, 2019. It's the time for predictions. What do you predict that liberal, Hillary, Obama-loving Mueller is going to do as he moves forward here in 2019?
Well, here's what I think. I think the Mueller investigation is going to continue, and I think it's going to continue a lot longer than people think. And here's the reason why. As much as this is about investigating Donald Trump, which I do think it is, there's been so much that he's uncovered in that process, and the simple adjudication of the work that he's uncovered is going to require a certain bit of time. And so, I don't know that I have the numbers off the top of my head, but there's been dozens of indictments. There have been 4 convictions already. There have been, X amount of things that are still pending. And, there's the presidential component to all of this, which I think everybody's focused on. But the work of Mueller could take a lot longer. There are a number of trials that may not start until the summer. There are new charges that could come out in the next couple of months that could require things to go much longer. So I think that Mueller as special counsel, that could, we could be still talking about Mueller as special counsel this time next year. I think the big question is, where does the rubber hit the road, so to speak, in terms of his investigation into Donald Trump specifically?
Yeah.
And I still say anybody that tries to predict that, like it's going to happen soon or it's going to happen later, we don't have any idea. I think he could, there could be the second week in January, he could announce a report. Or it may not happen until this time next year. The one thing I do think we have to keep in mind, though, Bill, is that there is no obligation for the Attorney General's office to release anything that Robert Mueller produces publicly. So if he doesn't produce a legal document, which is a charging document or some sort of thing that has to go into the federal court system, if he just issues this report, which is kind of a fictional thing that we've all kind of talked about, and he hands it to it's not his job. He doesn't put it out to the public. He hands it to whoever is the Attorney General. And you've got 2 people, either Matt Whitaker, the acting Attorney General, or Bill Barr, who's the former Attorney General and the guy that Trump has appointed to take the job permanently, who have both criticized the role of the special counsel. So there's a good chance that either one of those guys gets that report and says, nothing to see here.
Boy, that would be very difficult to.
Yeah, it is.
Think about it. The Whitewater had not
I think it's a real concern.
Yeah. Nagel is taking his beer hat off and becoming Citizen Nagel here.
Citizen Nagel. Ryan, thank you. Hey, going back to potential Democratic candidates, do you think that America is ready for a woman president? And considering the misogyny against Hillary Clinton, they portrayed her as a dour old woman.
Mm-hmm.
And second question, do you think that Beto is so popular because he was running against one of the most unpopular people in the entire country?
Somebody who Republicans look not too fondly upon.
Yeah. Well, I'll answer the first question, and the answer is I don't know.
And by the way, there will be plenty of Republicans listening right now who are saying, Nagel, they didn't portray her as that. That's who she is. She's But guess what? PR, they hammered her and hammered her.
But she's capable.
I'm going to answer that. I'll let Ryan answer. America is not ready for a female president. I'm sorry. They're not. She's going to have to be tough against this President Trump, and she's going to come off negatively because America is still not ready to treat a tough female equally as compared to a tough male. Now, that will be unpopular, but I believe that way.
But this is what I think, to Nagel's point, Bill, we do not know if the United States is ready for a female president until America elects a female president.
Yeah, right.
And the simple fact of the matter is there's no evidence that the United States is ready for that because they haven't been able to do it, and they did have the opportunity with the most qualified candidate to ever run for president of the United States, and that's an objective metric. That's not, that's not me saying that I'm necessarily a fan of Hillary Clinton, and they chose not to do that, and they instead chose the least qualified candidate who ever ran for president to take the job. So I do think that there is a pretty good flock of capable female candidates that the Democrats could put forward. I think it's just going to be a matter of, has the country evolved enough at that point to remove the question of whether or not someone is a female as part of their decision-making process. I don't think someone should become president because they're a woman, but I do think, to Nagel's point, that there is still a barrier that exists because you are a woman to take that next step. Now, in terms of Beto, I do think that Ted Cruz is part of that. I do think that he has, there is a negative feeling about him by some Americans. But I think that it's more about his persona, his charisma. I think he is extremely good at messaging. I don't know if you saw the video that he put on his Twitter page about the wall, and I think it's really been the most effective and compelling argument against the wall of any candidate or any person in this debate. I mean, it was brilliant. It shows shots of the Rio Grande River and basically asks, are you going to put a wall here? And how are you going to do that, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think that's been Beto's biggest strength, is that he's been able to kind of crystallize these hot-button issues that, you know, a big segment of Americans are concerned about and do it in a concise way. Now, his problem was he did it in one of the most Republican states in the country, and that's why he fell short. So, I just think that he's a little not vetted and hasn't been tested. But the other thing I'd say about Beto is he's a white guy, you know, and I just don't know if the Democratic Party right now, given everything that's happened with this administration, I do feel that there's a compelling strength. You know, when you look at the kind of the tent poles of the Democratic Party, to have someone that's either of color, that is a woman, or is someone from the LGBTQ community. I mean, this is like, that makes up a big portion of their electorate, and you need someone that perhaps embodies that in some way, shape, or form to really excite people and get them to the polls, which is what they didn't have 4 years ago with Hillary Clinton.
And with that said, just quickly, I got about 45 seconds if you can squeeze this in. The new Congress going into play, Pelosi, our own new Congressman, Anthony Brindisi, and now you have this Ocasio-Cortez coming out and saying that she's going to be voting against Nancy Pelosi. Is there a Tea Party movement underway in the Democratic Party?
Yeah, I think the progressive movement could be a very big problem for Democrats right now, and I think Ocasio-Cortez perhaps embodies that the most. The big thing for Democrats is, will they be able to get out of their own way? There's one issue in which Democrats across the country, and then that bleeds into a lot of independents that are united on, and that's opposition to Donald Trump. The way you oppose Donald Trump comes in many, many different forms, and there are many people that have different opinions as to what best way to go about it, and that's where Nancy Pelosi could be in trouble, because if they overplay their hand here, that could boomerang around and help Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing about that is, do they push ahead with an impeachment without a smoking gun? And if they do that, that could actually really play well to Donald Trump's base, as we were talking about before, and that could be the fuel he needs for his reelection campaign. So Nancy Pelosi has got a very big job on her hands here when she takes the gavel this afternoon. It is not going to be easy.
And right now, the president's been really easy on her. He's really avoiding attacking her right now. It's going to be interesting.
But I will say, you know, Bill, I've covered a lot. I was actually talking with Rob Astorino, the guy that ran for governor in New York during my time at CNN this week, and we were talking about Joe Bruno, who was the former Senate Majority Leader, and I said he's one of the most skilled politicians I've ever been around. And the one person that reminds me the most of him, and it seems crazy because their politics are so different, but it's Nancy Pelosi, because they're both incredibly shrewd. They see things happen before anybody else does, and they know how to marshal support behind them in ways that other people don't. So if anybody's up to the task, I think it's Nancy Pelosi.
Our daughter was on TV over the last couple of days and said that was asked about her mother and said, listen, she'll cut your head off and you won't even know it's been severed.
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll see. We'll see. All right, Ryan, good stuff. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
All right, guys, have a Happy New Year.
Right.
Great to talk to you.
Happy New Year. We'll talk to you next week. Ryan Nobles from CNN. So here we are in 2019. And family. Spend time with family. Who's got a story they want to hit?
I'd love to. Thank you. Yes, this is the only topic I'm an expert on. It's my son, and it was every day he hits me with this. Many of you know at the age of 3, they do cute things every single day. So he says to me, we're taking the Christmas decorations down, and he says he recently got a Tony the Tiger spoon straw out of the bottom of the cereal box, and he wants to use it all the time.
Big frosty.
Daddy, can I have some water? I want to drink out of my spoon straw. Okay, so I set it up for him, and there's stuff all over because there's ornaments. We're taking it down. I said, don't spill it. I won't spill it. I said, don't spill it. I promise I won't spill it. 30 seconds in, he spills it, and it's a big mess. Daddy, I spilled my water. So I go in there, and I'm cleaning it up. Unfortunately, it's just water, so I'm sopping it up. And he says, I'm sorry, Daddy. And I said, it's okay, buddy. Did you do it on purpose or was it an accident? He goes, it was an accident. It was an accident. He goes, Santa's not going to come next year, is he? I said, no. And I'm trying to explain to him the difference between doing things bad and then making a little mistake. I said, it was just a boo-boo. Yeah. And he goes, I don't have a boo-boo. But it's just every day it's something with him.
Son, though.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
We have a little thing in the studio. We've been 25 days without an accident. Manaski spilling something somewhere, like father, like son. Nagel, good call on that one. Hey, gotta go. Back here to wrap up the week tomorrow at WIBX.